On tonight's episode, the Witchfinders. Feel like they could have gone with the Witch Hunters or the Witch Trials or something that sounded a little bit better.
Let us put the accused to the test.
Granny!
Hush.
It's a witch trial.
This episode is set in the 17th century in Lancashire, during the height of the British witch trials. It's really odd when you start to think how violent and superstitious and ignorant we all were only 600 years ago. If you think about it, like our parents, our grandparents, their grandparents, this was only about 6 people ago. It's really crazy how far we've progressed in such a small amount of time.
Satan stalks this land. We must continue to root him out and do whatever it takes to save the soul of our village.
The doctor intervenes during a dunking ceremony. Now, I normally have a big problem with our crew interfering with the past, but the doctor wouldn't have been much of a hero if she had sat back and watched an innocent woman be drowned to death, now would she?
Meet me on the other side!
I feel like the psychic paper doesn't really work in this time period. People's credentials would have been written on a massive piece of parchment with a quill and a wax seal, not on a modern plastic fold-out photo ID holder. Maybe these people are seeing the doctor pull out a big piece of parchment, but then would they not have wanted to hold it and read it themselves? I don't know. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Sorry, one sec.
Witchfinder General.
That's right. Witchfinder General.
These ominous transition shots are both atmospheric and artistic.
Please forgive me, mistress. If I'd have known who you were, I'd have bowed to your authority immediately.
I want to find that girl who's just lost her gran. We'll deal with her ladyship if you go do some family liaison. I'll meet you in a bit.
You're gonna send Yaz back alone to this village? This village that regularly murders people because they suspect them of being witches. I know she's a police officer and all, but I think you should send somebody back with her. So King James is in this story. This makes historical sense, as King James brought the concept of witch hunting back to Britain after he spent some time in Denmark. Alan Cummings portrays him, and he's obviously a good actor. In this role, he's camp and over the top, but you can't help but like this charismatic king.
God's chosen ruler and Satan's greatest foe come to vanquish the scourge of witchcraft across the land.
I picked up on some sexual tension between King James and Ryan. I don't know whether King James was gay. Maybe I'm just misinterpreting Alan's acting here, but he seemed to like Ryan in a weird way.
And what is your field of expertise, my Nubian prince? Come back to London with me, Ryan. Be my protector. We should talk.
Graham is anointed Witch Hunter General by King James, and he wears this giant hat for the rest of the episode. This was a highlight of the episode for me.
Excuse me, when you say Satan,
Holly berries.
The doctor, an oddly dressed woman who's new to town, checks over one of the other local women using her sonic screwdriver. I think this was a silly idea, considering that most women were turned in by other neighbouring housewives for witchcraft. She just should have been more vigilant.
Don't worry. I am a doctor.
What's that?
Specialist equipment.
The horror elements in this story are great. They're creepy aesthetically and scary tonally. There's this great camera tilt from a high up angle that reveals the monsters, and it's executed perfectly. I think that Doctor Who works best when it implements horror elements, and this story definitely succeeds in this way.
Doctor? Always good to get fast answers.
Doctor is eventually captured as a witch. This is an obvious source of drama that feels natural to the story at hand.
I have seen you, with your wand, raising your kin from the dead.
Yes.
What? No.
The Doctor makes a quip along the lines of, if I was a man, none of this would be happening and I could get on with my job. This is a common historical misconception. Men, women and children were all burnt, drowned and hung for suspicions of witchcraft. The poor, the rich, social outcasts and acolytes were all victims of this uneducated annihilation. If Capaldi rocked up wearing a big black cloak, waving a magic wand and speaking in an odd manner, he probably would have been implicated for witchcraft as well.
Lucifer!
Honestly, if I was still a bloke, I could get on with the job and not have to waste time defending myself.
Oh, you bewitch us with your alluring form and your incessant jabber, but I knew you were unnatural from the very start.
After the Doctor is captured, she tries to manipulate James using pop psychology. She implies that James is only on this hunt because he's suffering from inner turmoil and trying to escape his pain. I don't believe this. I believe that the Catholic Church was peddling propaganda based on uneducated observations of an archaic text, and that people of the time actually believed in satanic saboteurs. Either way, the Doctor's manipulation doesn't work, and James continues with her trial, so the scene wasn't too on the nose for me.
Nobody will ever know why she left you, James. But you can't go hurting people just because you're scared to face up to the darkness inside you.
The Doctor escapes her execution, and these creepy monsters rock up to assimilate with Becca. Becca is kind of the architect of these small town witch hunts.
Of course. They've come to join you. It's in you, just as it's in them, and none of you can hide it anymore.
Much like Ancient Aliens, this episode tries to shoehorn extraterrestrials into a historical context. I feel like this story could have been based in fantasy rather than sci-fi. I don't see why Doctor Who couldn't have a few fantasy episodes sprinkled here and there.
Satan himself attacked me, poisoned me. That night, I felt it growing inside me.
Becca transforms into a horrific alien mud monster. The prosthetics look really good. They look alien, they look intimidating. But most importantly, I think they would have scared the crap out of a lot of children out there. The exposition surrounding these aliens doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you think about it. They're imprisoned in a mud hill and a bionic tree leaves them captured there. I feel like the people who imprisoned them there would have thought about the fact if the tree was ever cut down or blown over that these prisoners would have escaped. Why didn't they just imprison them on their own planet or somewhere safer?
It's ancient alien technology. Beautiful and broken. A very old, very advanced biomech security system. A lock to keep the Morax army imprisoned here.
The third act of this episode is wrapped up in less than 10 minutes. It feels a bit rushed, but I do appreciate how batshit fucking crazy it all got. In conclusion, I think this episode was really good. It wasn't perfect, but nothing in this world is. While I thought Kablam was a safe, stock standard story, this episode was outrageous. It was different. It took a lot of risks, had a lot going on, and I feel like that should always be respected and accredited. Thank you for watching, and it'd really help out if you could like, subscribe, and in the comments tell me how I got all the facts wrong and how my opinion is null and void. Thank you, and good night.